Shaki, and this is Today in the News. Here on Today in the News, we read and give in-depth analysis on some of the stories making waves across Nigeria. This morning, I'm starting with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with Buhari's reckless policies triggered current hardship. That's according to SANUSI and OSHIOMHOLE. Previous administrations adamant about our appeal for corrective measures, not willing to take advice. That's according to SANUSI. I lamented loudly what I saw as reckless policies designated to dehumanize the population. That from OSHIOMHOLE. Buhari's aides keep mum. You can see that story on page 5 of Vanguard newspaper. And here there's a picture showing Mr. Agboje, founder, chairman, Coronation Capital, Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State, Mr. Tunde, and Mrs. Stella Wigwe, and Pastor Wigwe, parent of the late Abat Wigwe, and Professor Patu Tomi doing a condolence visit to the parent of late Abat Wigwe, who died alongside wife and son in a helicopter crash in the United States last weekend. Now on page 9, economy, we are almost on the way to Venezuela. That's according to PDP governance. You can see that on page 9. And then page 31, sport, goodbye Peseiro. NFF insists its time is over. Wigwe, Governor Abiodun, Dangote, Utomi, others visit parent Obaseki Diri Aboveri. You can see that on page 45. On page 9, crisis hits Labour Party. Treasurer asks chairman to account for 3.5 billion naira. African Creators Summit. We plan to promote creative economy. That's according to Adewumi, the convener. Emir of Kano to First Lady. Tell your husband Nigerians are suffering. You can see that on page 25, and stories above the banner on page A40. Energy crisis. Nigeria's electricity generation drops 17.8% to 4,015 megawatts. And on page 10, kidnappers from Ekiti, Edo, Kogi invading Ondo. That's from Amotekun. Edo Guba, ESCO members won't participate in Labour Party's indirect primary. That's from the chairman. APC elected 960 delegates for February 17 direct primary. Lastly, on Vanguard newspaper on page 8, why federal government should consider 1 million as minimum wage, and that's from NLC. Now the Punch newspaper. Punch is leading with Wigwe. Federal government, United States begin talks as officials test the copter's wreckage. You can see that on page 21. NTSB relocated choppers engine, rotor blades landing GS today. Nigeria to support United States team. Abiodun, Dangote, others visit Wigwe. Ogunbanjo's family. Late Access Bank CEO Kingsman protest. You can see that on page 21. On page 8, NAFDAC insists on sachet alcohol ban, hoodlums attack officials. Kidnappers killed our driver for talking that Ekiti State school owner. IMF forecast $8 billion fall in Nigeria's 2024 foreign reserves. Stories above the banner, outage. Federal government plans action for non-performing discos. You can see that on page 30 of the Punch newspaper. Now the Guardian is leading with 113.8 million undocumented Nigerians raise doubt on population size. That can be seen on page 6. CBN informs court of $6.2 million release for 2023 poll. You can see that on news page 3. And on Metro page 12, abduction, father of slain Anambra lawyer slums dies. Reps raise ministry's inability to defend 75 billion naira COVID-19 expenditure. Alleged $6 billion fraud. You have no power to try me, ex-minister Agunlere tells AFCC. You can see that on page 8. And lastly, on the Guardian newspaper, 10 years after verdict, women folk still await property inheritance rights in Southeast. That can be seen on News Analysis page 4. And that's all we have on the front pages of the dailies this morning. Join us after the break for the analysis. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is today the news on Vanguard Live. My name is Daniela Okunshakin. Joining us to analyze the front pages of the dailies this morning is Mr. Dayo Akintobi. He's the publisher of Wigwe today, Lucky today, and Ikeja GRA today. Good morning, Mr. Dayo.
Good morning, Daniela. Good morning to all our viewers.
Yes, thank you for joining us. So, what do you have to say about the weather? I mean, coming from the road today, I saw almost everybody sweaty, and the fact that there's even no electricity again.
Yes, the fact there's no power compounds the weather problem. We've had scorching hot weather in the last few days. I think it's an outgrowth of the Harmattan season, really, which has cool nights and very hot days, and we're experiencing that at this point in time. In fact, the Environmental Protection Agency has issued hazard warnings that the air is not safe to breathe. Put your face mask on, drink a lot of water. The weather is really very harsh right now, and the fact that there's no power supply or limited power supply compounds the problem. Yeah.
All right, let's move away from that. Talk about the stories on the front pages this morning. Well, as Nigerians gnash their teeth over the economic downturn, former governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Dr. Lamido SANUSI, and former Edo State Governor, Senator Adams OSHIOMHOLE, they blamed the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari for the raging economic woes. I mean, right before we usually have, we do have other parties blaming another party, but now we have the parties blaming each other now. What do you have to say about them?
Well, the former CBN governor, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, has always been an ardent critic of every government, even the government he served in. Under President Goodluck Jonathan, he was always vociferous in talking about or advocating good governance. He was one of the first ones who talked alarmingly about the subsidy fraud and how subsidy had to go. And he wasn't quiet even after he left office and even during the Buhari regime. So some of the things he says, we have to take some pause, because it looks like he's non-partisan. At least he's not particularly biased towards a specific party. He speaks across the board, so there could be some semblance of truth to what he's saying. But I find Adams OSHIOMHOLE, the former governor of Edo State, I find his position rather curious, because first of all, he was the chairman of the party during President Buhari's regime, and he spoke glowingly of President Buhari then and the way he was governing the country. And from my understanding of politics, really, the reason it is the political parties who draw up the agenda. The president is just going there to represent the party and to do the bidding of the party, but it is the party who has a manifesto. It is the party who has an ideology, and then party operatives are supposed to hew to the ideology of the party. So essentially what I'm saying is, Governor OSHIOMHOLE is speaking from both sides of his mouth now, to come here now and say that the policies during the Buhari regime were inhuman and were reckless and were this and that, because first of all, he was the head of the party then. The party has a say in what the president or any of his representatives are doing, because they have been sponsored for office on the ticket of the party to go and abide by the ideology of the party. So if the person you put there to implement your ideology is not doing what you have asked him to do, you have a say. The party had a say, and Governor OSHIOMHOLE was at the helm of the party then and spoke blatantly of what President Buhari was doing. For him to now turn around and say that the policies of President Buhari's government were reckless and were inhumane and were calculated to dehumanize Nigerians, I think he's being hypocritical. I think he is essentially trying to feather his own nest, and I don't think he's being straightforward at all. I do agree, don't get me wrong, I do agree that a lot of the problems we are facing now came out of some of the mismanagement of the Buhari regime. But even before the Buhari regime, before the Buhari administration, a lot of previous governments have done things that have not been the very best for the future of Nigerians. However, remember that during President Buhari's administration, we had COVID, we had global recession, we had downturn in oil prices. So he had to deal with a lot of different issues. Whether he handled them correctly or not, history will judge. But the point is this: those who are in office today, the reason you put yourself forward for office is because you say, the country is in a mess. I have the answers to fix it. That's what this administration told us. They were under no illusions that they were coming into a rosy, well-ordered economy and situation. They sold themselves to us on the basis that we understand Nigeria's problems. we will come in, we have solutions, we will fix it. So this blame game now of say, so person is who caused it, and please don't blame the person who is there now. The person who is there now told us he has answers, and it's the solutions he has that we're looking to him for. I don't buy this blame game at all, especially coming from the same party. They're in the same party, they have the same ideology. At the end of the day, they are propagating the party's will when they're in office, whether it was the Buhari administration or the Tinubu administration. They're all under the same umbrella, or should I say under the same rule, and they're all advancing the party's ideology. So you can't turn around and point fingers of blame at Buhari and exempt Tinubu from the blame. It's not possible.
Now, do you think it was the removal of subsidy that actually made the economy harsher on the people?
Without a doubt. I mean, the two steps that the president took at his inauguration, the free floating of the naira and the subsidy removal, had an immediate deleterious effect. Immediate. Of course, before he even left the podium at his inauguration, petrol had skyrocketed to over 400 naira per litre. And now today it's about 600 and something. So they had an impact. The free floating of the naira, look at the naira is under a precipitous fall. As of yesterday, 1,543 naira to $1. It's unprecedented. We've never seen that before. To the point that even customs is charging duty. The duty we pay to customs to bring goods into the country is being computed at 1,543 naira to the dollar. They are computing it based on those rates. So those two things without a doubt had an effect. But I also want us to look beyond that and understand that some of the things we are seeing now are the after effects of COVID, the after effects of global recession. In the UK, they're going through a cost of living crisis that is crazy as well. And there are other countries as well that are going through difficult times. It's not limited to Nigeria only. The difference is different countries have different approaches to solving the problem. In our country, what we did was we issued palliatives and said, okay, let's help cushion the effect by giving palliatives. The palliatives didn't do much to the cost of living crisis. The palliatives didn't reduce prices in the market, didn't reduce the cost of fuel. It gave people temporary succor for a week or two, and then we're back to the same situation as status quo, where we're still hungry. We're still I mean, food commodities in the market now are absolutely unaffordable for the average Nigerian. So yes, it's a combination of factors. Yes, without a doubt, removal of subsidy without waiting for the refineries to be working, without putting in place the measures first before removing it, made the effects harsher. Don't get me wrong, the effects will still have been harsh, but it made the effects harsher and more immediate than if it had been done. Maybe remember that in the budget that Buhari signed before he left, he made allowance for subsidy up to June. So when they came in May 29, we still had a month by which subsidy had been budgeted for in the budget, that the money was available. If they had taken that 1 month and still allowed subsidy to continue, perhaps announced to Nigeria that come July 1, no more subsidy, but in the next 30 days, here's what we're going to do and put in place before we remove the subsidy, it might have mitigated the impact a little bit less to where it wouldn't have been so harsh. So it's not an isolated situation, but perhaps it could have been handled a bit better.
Well, yes, the Emir of Kano yesterday urged the First Lady Senator Oluwemi Tinubu to tell her husband, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that Nigerians are suffering due to the economic hardship in the country. So what do you think about the message that was sent to the First Lady?
Well, it's a profound message coming from the messenger, the person who delivered the message. It carries a lot of clout and a lot of weight because the Emir of Kano more or less is seen as the cultural leader of all of the people in the north. He's the effective leader, and for him to say that, it means it's a real and pressing problem, that there's rampaging poverty in the north and across the whole of the country, and perhaps coming from the Emir, it might carry a heavier weight than if a common man is talking on the streets and complaining. But what the Emir is saying is he has the ear of his people, and what he's hearing is not good, and he wants that message. And who better to deliver the message to the president and his wife? I mean, at night, when their heads are on their pillows, there's no noise, there's no interaction, there's no interference. She can speak straightforwardly to him and have his attention. So that's why the Emir used that opportunity to pass a message to the president through the person who has his ear the best. So let's hope it resonates. I don't doubt that the president knows this. I don't think he's that cocooned or that isolated from everyday Nigerians to where he doesn't really know what our circumstances are. I think he knows what the situation is, but perhaps because of the person that the message was coming from, it might have more meaningful impact when he hears it.
Well, according to PDP governors, say the rising cost of things means that we are heading closer to Venezuela. Can you explain or touch more on that for us?
Well, you see, Venezuela and Nigeria have a lot in common. Venezuela is a major oil-producing country, just like Nigeria. It has not as much population as Nigeria, but it also has been ruled by years of mismanagement. And a few years ago, we saw pictures of people going to buy a loaf of bread and taking a wheelbarrow of notes to buy a loaf of bread. You needed so many bills and money became worthless. It wasn't even worth what toilet paper was worth. You want to buy a cup of coffee, you need like, our bundles of naira, we have 100 notes in each one. Imagine you have to take 5 bundles of 1,000 to go buy a cup of coffee. That's the Venezuela situation, and that's what the PDP governors were saying is we are inching towards that kind of a situation now, because the bottom line is the naira is able to buy you less and less and less. Each time you go to the market, the next day you go back, the prices are up for every little thing. I heard the Eureka of rice was 1,500 the other day. Yesterday was 3,500. So the naira is buying you less and less and less. The governors are saying is let's not wait until the time when we need 5 bundles of naira notes to buy a handful of tomatoes. So essentially Venezuela's economy is kaput, and it's unconscionable and shameful because it is an oil-rich country. So it is purely mismanagement at the governance level that has led to the state of affairs in Venezuela. So the PDP governors are saying is that as the opposition, this is constructive criticism, that we're not just criticizing to just be the opposition, but the truth is in our individual states we see problems of insecurity and problems of poverty, and we see it becoming a problem because the steps the government is taking to address the issues are not working. As I said even yesterday, the naira dropped further against the dollar, right? And prices are inching up and the naira is buying less. So the PDP governors are sounding a warning and saying, please try to do something about it. They suggested state police to address the insecurity. I've always been an advocate of decentralization, that Abuja cannot or is not best placed to be able to police our local communities, and so the PDP governors reiterated that this administration should please try and do something, although to take a constitutional amendment to do that. But if the governors are in support of it, they can get their houses of assembly to approve it, so it shouldn't be a big deal to do that. So they talked about state policing in terms of the insecurity, because don't get me wrong, insecurity is part of what is fueling the poverty, because when there's insecurity, farmers can't go to farm, truckers can't move the produce and move the food items. So they're all interwoven problems. Do you understand? So yes, we do need to address insecurity as well for poverty to begin to reduce. So PDP governors were doing what the opposition is supposed to do, and they came at it from a standpoint of we're all in this together. We are not fighting you. It's not like we're here to bang heads with you. We're just here as your brothers in this common problem together, and we're offering some advice to you.
What do you think about the new the CBN governor's new policy that if you receive foreign currency, the banks need to give you naira again? What do you think of? Do you think this policy will make the naira stronger again?
Well, it's a tough call. See, the value of your currency. The value of your currency has a lot of interplay with certain issues. Your foreign reserves, your GDP, your interest rates. It's not limited to just one item alone. Things like unemployment, things like housing starts. There's so many things that are interwoven that have a direct impact on the value of your currency. And at the moment, all of those indices are in negative territory. So yes, by saying that instead of collecting dollars, you collect naira, right? That is reducing the pressure on looking for dollars, because what is making the naira weaker, of course, is that there's a demand for dollars that we can't meet. So when demand outweighs supply, price increases. So this is part of the problem. So he is saying that if they send you dollars and you collect naira. The dollar equivalent of it is going to go to a foreign reserve, which will help boost the value of the naira. Well, we've done it before. It's not new. In the past, about 5-10 years ago, we used to collect remittances in local currency. It's been done before. So whether it will fully correct the situation at hand is left to see. But it is one of many steps that needed to be taken. However, some people will say, if you send me dollars, it's my right to collect dollars. What right do you have? Because when they change it for you, when they give it to you in naira, they're going to give it to you at the official rate. If you collected it in dollars, you could go and change it at whatever rate you want. But the idea is there's no more parallel market. Remember, of course, that's just a smoke screen. There's still a very active parallel market. The black market still exists. But the idea is you take a loss by collecting in naira because you could have got it more if you collected the dollars and went to find a way to change it.
So this will probably help kill the black market completely.
Not necessarily, because people still have ways of getting dollars.
All right, the NLC have said that if the naira continues to fall, they might demand the 1 million naira as minimum wage from the federal government during their meeting. How realistic do you think this is, or what do you have to say about it?
On the surface, it looks like a big joke, and I almost fell out of my chair laughing when I heard it, because out of 36 states, 26 have not been able to pay the 30,000 in full. Only 10 are paying it in full. 26 are either not paying at all, or paying part, or doing promises. So 26 can't pay 30,000. How do you expect even one to pay 1 million? It's not possible. It's a joke. But here's the thing. I think there's been a mischaracterization of what NLC said, really, because if you think about it, it's so unrealistic to be true. But I listened to the interview that the NLC president had on one of the major networks yesterday. And what was said, but you know, in this age of social media, a lot of stuff is just thrown about. What was said was this. The NLC president said, we will demand a minimum wage that is commensurate with the cost of living. In other words, what it means is that your salary should be an amount that will help you to live an okay life, pay your rent, be able to buy your fuel, buy your food, pay your children's school fees, blah, 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 blah. The interviewer now said, so the cost of living is 1 million naira per month. Is that what you will demand? And he said, whatever it takes for our leader, our members, or the average Nigerian worker, whatever it takes for him to have a living wage, to be able to survive, to be able to pay the cost of living, that's what we will demand. The interviewer repeated again, even if it's 1 billion, and the other president said, no matter the amount, even if it's 1 million, even if it is more, whatever the cost of living is, we will demand a minimum wage commensurate with that cost of living. So, if you pass that statement completely, he did not say you are going to ask for 1 million. He did not say you are going to ask for 1 million. He knows that's not realistic. How do they calculate cost of living? They go to the market, they take all your items, put in one basket. It's called the consumer price index. So they put 2 yams, 10 tomatoes, 4 onions, a bag of rice, and then they calculate what is the cost of all those items in the basket. If it's a family of 4, they calculate your fuel cost, your this cost, your that cost, your that cost. Then they add it all together, and then they get what they consider to be a living wage, an amount you need to survive on a monthly basis. Well, I put it to you that for the average Nigerian, that amount is not 1 million naira at this point. So why would we be asking for 1 million naira wage? So they will go to the negotiations wide open, probably with better figures. We're not talking about 1 million naira. I would say they probably start out asking for about 100,000. I know the government can't, even by Onunuga said it yesterday, that they can't pay 100,000. But I expect Labour to start negotiations at about 100,000, and perhaps we'll end up with 50 or 60, which is still much better than the 30,000 they're paying now.
Alright, let's quickly touch on this one. Well, Albert Wigwe, his wife, his son, and the former group chairman of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Abimola Ogunbanjo, the chopper that carried them crashed at the border between California, and it killed all 6 occupants, including the crew members. And it was really a sad day for Nigerians. So what do you have to say about this, and also the investigation that is currently going on?
Yeah, this is a real tragedy. I mean, and to have lost one of our brilliant minds in the finance and banking industry at so tender an age is really a huge loss to the country, and our hearts go out to to his aged parents, to the entire Wigwe family, the Ogunbanjo family. I was classmates with Bimbola Ogunbanjo. We were classmates in school, so it's a personal loss for me as well. And you look at these things, and you can imagine that it's in a country like America, and helicopters are still dropping out of the sky. You can imagine that if it was in Nigeria, we'd be talking about poor maintenance, poor equipment, poor things. But America is supposed to be the most industrialized country in the world, and things like this are still happening. It just goes to show how fragile life in itself is, and how we should cherish every moment we have, because we don't know what tomorrow holds for any of us. Now, it is of course heartbreaking, and it's a big loss for the country. In terms of the investigation, the good thing, the difference between Nigeria and the US is that they will comb through every bit of evidence to find out where the error came from. Was it pilot error? Was it equipment failure? Was it weather related? And the whole purpose of all those investigations is to find out the cause, to prevent a similar reoccurrence. In Nigeria, we do have an accident investigation agency, I think Accident Investigation Bureau or something, but they start the investigation and we never know anything about it again, and no lessons are ever learned, or nothing profound comes out of the investigation, no conclusions. But in America, there will be a conclusion, and the public will be carried along that social helicopter crash that claimed the lives of 6 people. They don't care that the 6 people are not their citizens, that the 6 people, well, the 2 pilots were Americans, but I think the 5 passengers or 4 passengers were Nigerians. They don't care that they were not their citizens. The investigation will be thorough, it will be comprehensive, and it will come out with a conclusion that will be made public. So that if there's blame to be assigned, the blame will be assigned, and heads will roll. There's accountability, and there's repercussions, and there's consequences for negligence. So if they find that the charter company was at fault, it will be brought to book. If they find the pilots, well, the pilots are dead and gone, but if they were responsible, it will be said so. If it was weather or an act of God, it will be said so. So that blame can be placed at the right feet, and so that remedial measures can be put in place that will prevent such an occurrence from happening again. That's progress. It's unfortunate that it's the lives of our citizens that had to be sacrificed for such revelations and how shall we say, outcomes of errors to be discovered.
May their soul rest in peace.
Amen.
I just want you to quickly talk about, did you watch the match on Sunday?
Yes, I did.
So what do you have to say about Nigeria's performance, and what do you have to tell them, because currently it's trending on social media and some Nigerians are dragging the Super Eagles player?
Well, I saw the speech that the vice president gave the players in the locker room after the match, and I aligned fully with him when he went in to encourage them and said, you have nothing to be ashamed about. This is, you've done well. You've represented us admirably, and we are proud of you. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Coming second has shown that in the whole continent of Africa, you are the second best. All it means is that you try harder next time. He encouraged them, and I align with that. Yes, it was a poor showing, I admit, but that's the nature of football. You don't come out that's the nature of any sport. You don't come out anytime and always are excellent and above par. There are times when you have a subpar game. Unfortunately, we had a poor game in the most important showing, but that doesn't mean that we didn't play well through the rest of the tournament. Yeah, there were technical issues. The experts were complaining the coach didn't play the right people at the right time. He didn't substitute properly. That when we scored the first goal, we tended to relax a bit and get complacent. There are many technicalities that the football analysts have been able to point out, but there's nothing to be ashamed of in coming second, and I'm proud of our team, and I believe that given the right incentives, and the vice president said so, he said, we will honor you when you get back to Nigeria, we will compensate you, we'll be proud of you, we will showcase you. So showing that they are important and giving them a sense of patriotism and national pride is a big boost to their confidence level and to their drive to succeed. So let's leave the technicalities for the experts, about the coach, about substitutions, about training, about facilities, about nutrition and all the technical. Let's leave those. For us, the most important thing as people and as a country is to encourage ourselves and to always make sure that we support ourselves. I understand on the internet they've been dragging the team, they've been putting them down, saying this, saying that. That's not the best way to go. We should be positive and we should keep hope alive.
Yes, keep hope alive. And that takes us to Mr. and Mrs. this morning.
Yes.
And Mrs. is pregnant. Mrs. says that the baby's kick was stronger throughout last week, but not as strong when Nigeria lost the trophy to Ivory Coast. And Mr. says no true Nigerian is happy at the result.
Yeah, well, yes, no true. Every true Nigerian wanted Nigeria to win the cup, but at the same time, we came second. We live with it. We move on and prepare for the very next one. Mrs.'s baby will start kicking again. Just taking a break to start kicking strong again in a day or two.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Dayo Akitobi, for joining us this morning.
Pleasure is all mine.
Yeah, do want to like and follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Visit our website www.vanguardngra.com to get more of our top stories. My name is Damilola Okunshaki. Have a lovely Tuesday.